Sometimes the best stories in golf aren't found on tour. You'll find them at the back of the range. And here's your host, Ben Adelberg.
And once again, welcome to the back of the range. I am your host, Ben Adelberg. This is episode 234. The year is coming to a close, and while I won't make it to 250 episodes by the end of the year, there are still 3 more episodes that will be released in 2021. All 3 are filled with incredible stories. Very proud of these episodes. So while you're traveling over the next couple weeks, or even if you're staying put and hunkering down, I hope you enjoyed the final episodes of the back of the range for 2021. Don't worry, 2022, we get started all over again with some incredible guests. The stories, don't forget, this is a two-way street. So if you have some players, coaches, golf personalities in mind that you think would be great guests here at the back of the range, send me an email, ben@thebackoftherange.com. DM me on Twitter, Instagram, you know the drill. Just get in touch with me. Let me know who you think should be here next year at the back of the range, and I'll try and make that happen. As always, please make sure that you are following along on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Between now and the end of the year, I'm recapping my top 10 memories from 2021. It's been a crazy year for me here. Lots of tournaments, travel, new friends, incredible episodes. So I tried my best to whittle the list down to 10. It's kind of impossible, but I'm rolling out the top 10. Follow along on Instagram. You'll get to see who makes it into this list. This is the toughest part of the year, trying to recap 12 months into just 10 poignant moments. But go ahead and check that out. My guest on this episode, he did it all as an amateur and then some. Haskins Award winner, McCormick Medal winner, NCAA individual champion. Yes, Braden Thornberry did it all during his time at Ole Miss, including a record 11 wins while in Oxford. We spoke about his start in the game, his most famous golf shot in college. Here's a hint, it wasn't even on a golf course. Confused? Don't worry, it'll all make sense. But we got into all that. We also spoke about his transition from college to the pro ranks. And yes, of course, I couldn't resist the opportunity to get even more stories about the 2017 Walker Cup. So let's get started on this episode. Braden, you're at the back of the range. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We've been trying to get this done, but I think the reason that we've had such a delay in this is both of our careers in golf have blossomed in 2021, and it's just we've been too busy taking care of business. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, that sounds fair. We've tried to do it 3 or 4 times now, and it just seems like for some reason it's been a bunch of different reasons, but it just hasn't worked out. And finally, we're able to lock it in. So
you got a cooler reason. One of the latest reasons why we couldn't get this done is you were playing at the TaylorMade Invitational at Pebble Bleeping Beach. I mean, come on, man. I mean, I'm okay with that. Yeah, you need to pass on doing a podcast episode to go play Pebble. How have you ever been out there before?
Yeah, I played the 2018 USAM out there at Pebble and Spyglass.
That's right.
And this was a little more casual week. It was it was obviously a tournament, and there's it was $60K to the winner and stuff like that. But it was also all expenses paid, staying at the Spanish Bay Inn, and you get 4 rounds of golf out there plus practice rounds, free food, free flights, everything. So it's one of those deals where it's if you're invited, it's an absolute no-brainer.
Yeah, I didn't get invited. I mean, who do I see? who do I see about that?
I heard you were right on the alternate list. Just must be maybe next year.
Yeah, that alternate list is about as long as the 17-mile drive to get to that joint. So not going to be waiting by the mailbox for that. But maybe to go out and take a couple pictures or two, because I do need to get out to Pebble. You're also about ready to head out. I know it's just we were just talking about this crazy, like what actually is an off season in professional golf. I mean, there's always something to play in, and it's not like the off season between tournaments is long at all anyway. But you're heading up to Arkansas with another alum of the podcast, Davis Riley. You're going to the Alotian Club. Who's better than you right now? I mean, this is kind of like for a professional golfer. Is this like a golf vacation? It's got to be a weird thing to think about, like going on a golf vacation when you're a pro golfer. But I guess this is a golf vacation for you, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would say technically it is. It was kind of a last minute deal, and like I was saying, yeah, it's the off season for a golfer. Like when I finished up in Evansville, I guess early September, I was like, man, like I don't feel like I'm gonna have anything to do till like middle of January when we start back up. Like maybe a few Mondays and stuff like that, but. It kind of it turns in. It seems like every 10 days or something comes up where I go out here, fly to this, or that Pebble tournament comes up. I do the Monday for Mexico and get in, and then it's all kinds of. It just seems like every 10 days I'm flying somewhere else, and it doesn't feel like as much of an off season as it probably should have.
Well, I mean, keep rolling, because every opportunity just leads into better play, and you never know what doors are going to get open for you. You kind of know the drill of being a professional golfer at this point, and we'll talk more about that in a bit. But we got to start at the beginning. Olive Branch, Mississippi. This is Northwest Mississippi. You're like, I guess 20-30 minutes from the Tennessee border. You're 45 minutes from Memphis. How do you start in the game of golf in Olive Branch, Mississippi?
Yeah, so I was actually even closer than that. I could probably get to the Tennessee border about 5 minutes, and then Memphis and maybe 20-25 downtown. But so yeah, my dad kind of got me introduced to the game like a lot of people do, and he was a scratch or one handicap, so he was a good player, and he kind of got me into the basics, and I kind of fell in love with it. And so then we joined this golf course. I actually played a lot of my golf in like Collierville, Tennessee, Germantown, Tennessee, right in there. It was about 30 minutes, and that's where my mom worked at. So she would drop me off at the golf course, this course called Memphis National, and there was 5-6 other kids that were kind of doing the same thing, and we basically just hang out there all day. Basically the work day we were out there. So some days that would be playing 36 holes, but some days we'd play 9 in practice and then just hang out in the clubhouse. So it was kind of a cool environment just to be around golf basically all day, and you could play as little or as much as you wanted to.
Yeah, I think that's got to be the ideal situation for anyone that's getting into the game. Now, you said your dad's a scratch. Now, when you eventually get that AT&T Pro-Am invite, I mean, you probably should bring your dad, but he's not going to help you very much on strokes. So that's going to be a strategic thing you got to really think about. I mean, if you want to win, you can't bring him. But if you want to do the right thing, then you bring him. I mean that's going to be a tough call for you.
Well, I will say he's only played probably 5 times in the last 3 or 4 years, so he might not quite be a winner or scratch anymore. But at the time, when we started, he was a good player.
So he's working it backwards to make himself look like a more appealing pick for that Pro-Am.
Exactly. So maybe this has been kind of a long con on me. So
smart guy. So I see what's happening here. Well, you have this great junior career. You check all the boxes, AJGA All-American, and you win, state high school championship, state junior. I mean, you check all the boxes that makes yourself very attractive to multiple programs. I'm guessing you kind of had your pick of anywhere you wanted to go. You obviously go to Ole Miss. What was your process like coming out of high school and in that spot where, programs are probably salivating over you right about then?
No, I actually didn't have that many offers, only because I committed so early. I kind of had it narrowed down to the ones that really showed interest really early were Vanderbilt, Mississippi State, and Ole Miss. And I always kind of had a bias to Ole Miss. My aunt, her whole family, they went to Ole Miss, and my parents went to University of Memphis. So, but yeah, it kind of came down to, I was always biased to Ole Miss, and once I got the offer I was looking for from there. I mean, I committed in 9th grade, so I was really I didn't really entertain much other stuff. I kind of knew that the way I looked at it, really, I was like, what decision would I regret? I'm like, let's say I go to, Clemson or something like that, and I'm like, that's a great school, but I might be looking back and be like, dang, like, my friends are at Ole Miss, like that's where I really wanted to represent, and I've always liked watching their football games. I was like, if I go to Ole Miss and, I'll have no regrets, that's where I want to be. So it made perfect sense. And it was honestly a really easy decision for me.
I just had one of your fellow teammates, Jackson Suber, on the podcast, and boy, boy, I'll tell you, just a wild-haired kid where I can just tell he just gets into trouble all the time on that campus. But
he's a beauty.
Oh my gosh! Well, he was telling me a little bit about the campus life down there, but I feel I might get a better idea of what a Saturday afternoon in the Grove is like. I'm just thinking that you might know your way around the Grove maybe a little better than Jackson Suber. I'm going out on a limb here, Braden, because I mean I'm putting my reputation on the line here by saying this, but I think you might have more experience at the Grove. Is that fair?
I would say it's fair, but I also would say Suber has a lot of experience too. So
okay, so Suber holds back on because he's still in college, is what you're saying.
Yeah, maybe so. But so Coach Malloy, he did a really good job with obviously our schedule came first on playing good events and stuff like that. But if it came down to it and there was, two tournaments we could play and they were both equally good, like he did keep in mind that, we are college students and we want to go to the football games and stuff like that. So, out of the 6 home games a year, like we usually got to go to probably 4 of them. So that was, which I know a lot of schools, like I've talked to some people and, they said they never got to go to a home game, like maybe one or 2. And I'm like, that's just brutal. Like, and it's, I mean, that's just, it was cool that he kind of, obviously you can't make it work every time, but,
right.
The good games, where, we beat Alabama and stuff like that. Like I was able to be there and I was even at some of our cool games, my senior year of high school. And, the Grove is, it's hard for me to really compare it because I haven't been to a ton of other schools. I went to the University of Arkansas the other day for the game against Missouri. And that was actually the first time I'd been to another SEC stadium. So it was kind of cool to, compare the 2 environments. And but from what I've heard from people that've kind of been to all of them, like the actual tailgating experience at Ole Miss is kind of second to none.
Yeah, and I guess the fact that, the fall season in golf, truthfully, isn't where you kind of make your hay. I mean, that's where you kind of, sort things out as far as lineups and,
exactly.
maybe, get a freshman a little bit more experience so they're not completely white as the ghost in the spring at regionals. So, but that's cool that Coach Malloy did that. That's I'd say that's a pretty smart move.
Yeah, he was a great coach to play under. He had just the perfect balance, in my opinion, of making us work hard. Golf comes first, all that, but then also understanding, that, one day a week we want to go have fun and stuff like that. And as long as you kind of, went with that philosophy, it was perfect. If you ever, kind of crossed him on that, then it could be, it could definitely tighten up the rules and tighten the reins a little bit. But it was definitely a good balance of kind of, letting us be college students. And then also when it mattered, I just thought it was the perfect balance to kind of keep everybody, we were having fun, but also you can be like the best you can be on the golf course.
Sounds like a great recipe because just like you said, I mean, at the end of the day, you're elite amateurs and you're moving on to the pro ranks, but you still, at the end of the day, you are college kids and,
Yeah, I mean, I think what it comes down to is the whole thing where, they say strict parents have, sneaky children type thing. I think it's one of those things where if a coach says, there's no going out, you can't go to the games and, have fun, all that kind of stuff, the players might honestly do it more. It's so it's one of those things, it's a little bit of a mutual respect kind of thing where, it's an understanding of, both, you can do both. And if you kind of go along with that, it makes sense compared to just, if you do a strict no, it's just not going to work. It's just going behind people's backs and all that stuff. So,
well, it's really interesting. And I know we've really dug in deep on this topic, but it is kind of fascinating. I've never actually mentioned this to a collegiate player, because I don't want to scare the hell out of them while they're actually playing for their coach. But, you do realize that your play on the golf course and your conduct on campus is directly related to this person's ability to be employed. I mean, you think about, finishes and this and that. But you have 19, 20, 21-year-olds and this is how this guy supports his family. It's based on how you guys behave on campus and on the golf course.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like you said, it comes down to how you're doing on the course, but it's also you're responsible fully. I mean, if anything goes wrong, it's not necessarily on you, but you're a huge factor in it, and you have to make the decision. If you keep if something somebody gets arrested or something crazy like that, you have to make the call on do you kick them off the team? Do you put them probation? Do you let nothing happen? And then you have run the risk of people judging that call and making their own call. So it's definitely there's a lot to the job that I think people don't see. It's not just putting golf putting scores up there.
Yeah, it's not just setting a lineup and stuff like that. So. Well,
there's a lot that goes into it for sure. As a game manager, almost.
Oh, of course, and I think it's just, Coach Malloy, for him to be able to, keep Suber on the straight and narrow for all these years is it's incredible. That guy, just fire starter the whole time we talked. But
Suber has a real he has a really good game. I would definitely not be surprised if when he turns pro, he makes a little run. So he's got a lot of game for sure.
Well, he has won 3 times at Ole Miss, which is only 8 behind you. I mean, he's got a little bit of work. I don't know if there's 8 more tournaments left in his career, so I'm not sure that's going to happen for him. But yes, he's having a good season. Pick up that win in the Bahamas before the end of the fall, and it'll be fun to watch him. It'll be fun to watch him in the spring. Now, one thing I wanted to address, a lot of the things we talk about at the back of the range is not just asking the guest a question, but also getting an answer that people listening, like juniors or parents of juniors, can apply to their own game. And I want to talk a little bit about something I rarely talk about on this podcast, which is the golf swing, because it's not a visual medium. It's an audio medium. I don't want to talk about plane and angle and grip, and because you can't see that, but anyone that has watched you play on TV or watched you in person knows that your swing looks a little bit different than what they may see walking down the range or flipping through the channels or flipping through on Golf Channel. Your swing is a little bit unorthodox, and I guess what I wanted to ask you is, you probably had several opportunities for instructors along the way, whether in junior golf, college, someone wanted to change something. And that's what you call an earth-shattering statement by the host. So at some point, somebody had an idea that you should be doing it differently. Obviously, you've kept things pretty much the same throughout your career. How challenging was that for you to just say, no, this is my game. This is my swing. This is what I'm running with. We're not going to change anything, because, how challenging was that for you?
Yes. Yeah. So kind of the start of it was, I kind of had, when I was like 10 years old, I had, like a lot of people, a little bit of a coming over the top type move. And my dad he just told me basically kind of the Fred Couples, like, take it out and drop it in. So I pretty much had to, grind into my head like that feel. And it kind of always stuck with me. And like, even like freshman year of college, my swing was a lot kind of, I guess the word would be like loopier than it is now. Like, it still has that kind of uniqueness of kind of picking the club up and dropping it.
Right.
But it's definitely less than it used to be. But yeah, it was, I never took a swing lesson in any high school and stuff. But obviously you have like, I'm 13 years old. You have, members and stuff thinking they know everything.
Sure.
And just from what they've seen on TV. And, basically I would always just be respectful to them and, say, yeah, I'll look into it, that kind of stuff. But my thought process was, I was beating the people that were my age and, even a little bit older and stuff. So I was like, I'm just going to basically stick with this until it isn't good enough anymore, if that makes sense.
Right.
So I didn't want to change into a different golf swing. Cause to me, like, every good player has like something that makes them better than other people. Like, so I felt like I was almost a little scared if I changed something, it might look better. Like, it could even maybe perform better, but would that will I lose my like spark and like edge a little bit, like compared to the guy next to me that has a good looking swing. So, looking back now, it's like you hear people say like, how many people wanted to change Jim Furyk's swing when he was 15. Yeah. And like, if he would have changed, would we even know the name Jim Furyk? So that was kind of my philosophy of like, at the end of the day, like, if you can turn the ball right to left, left to right, how far you hit it, and you can get the ball in the hole, like, the actual swing it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's very well said. And I want to make sure that people listening, especially juniors, because there's a lot of kids out there that have different actions, different moves, and also they're influenced by what they see more so now than when you were a junior.
Yeah.
Now, I mean,
it's gotta be tough.
Well, now on social media, you pull up, these images of these perfect golf swings, but then go look at actually who's making these perfect golf swings. Are they beating you? Are they playing in U.S. amateurs? If they're not, then who cares?
Well, a perfect example, Will Zalatoris is a perfect example. He's arguably, maybe not even arguably, but, him and probably Collin Morikawa are probably the best 2 ball strikers on the planet right now. And Will has this weird move that you would never teach. It's almost like the cardinal sin, basically, of a golf swing. He cups the wrist coming down and then kind of like lets it go, late. But if somebody just saw that swing and didn't know who Will was, that would be the first thing they change. But it's one of those things where, like, if Will fixed that, maybe he wouldn't be an elite ball striker anymore. So just there's no reason to mess with something that's working.
I love that point, but also selfishly, I love the fact that you said something nice about Zalatoris. That way, later in the episode, we have already built up some cachet where we can. Yeah, I love. Okay, good. We're in the same.
I'll talk positive about Will all day if he's not in the room.
Okay. All right. Well, he's not here right now. And is he over there with you right now?
No, he's not. Not that I know of, at least.
Okay, perfect. Then we're safe. It'll be fine then. Well, no, it's you're absolutely right. It doesn't matter how you get it done. If you're like, I love that. I'm beating everyone now, so until that changes, and you're basically a couple tournaments right now away from being on the PGA Tour. So yeah, I think things are working for you. You have this great career at Ole Miss. We talked about the 11 wins, and we can go down the list of awards. That will take a long time. So we'll just leave it at this. You win the national championship in 2017. And actually, before asking about that, there's plenty of highlights that I was able to watch on golfchannel.com. Couldn't help but notice there's a name on your golf bag that isn't Braden, and it's not Thornberry. It's Teddy. So I don't have this in the Rolodex of information. And what am I missing, and where did this come from?
Yeah, so that's an issue. The only person I really hear call me that anymore is Zalatoris, actually. So that's kind of an interesting little tidbit. But yeah, so where it came from is it was kind of just a team thing. It wasn't like my nickname just in life. It was just kind of within our 9 or 10 guys at Ole Miss. But so it started off really. There was my first college tournament. We had this host housing where we kind of went over for dinner, and we hung out for maybe an hour and a half or something like that. And when we were leaving, we were kind of they had a daughter that was maybe 5 years old, something like that. And we were everybody was giving her a hug or whatever. She wanted to hug all the players when we left.
Right.
And she hugged me, and she was like turned to her mom, and she's like, "Oh, he's fluffy."
Oh no.
So that was kind of it was kind of a laughing point for the rest of that week and stuff. And then kind of combined with my name being like Thornberry, T-Berry, kind of like Teddy Bear.
Right.
I don't know who it was exactly, but somebody just started calling me Teddy, and it just completely stuck. And then it went, it was Ted and Teddy for basically my whole college career. And, even my teammates that were there with me at the time, they still call me that. So it's not like a super deep nickname, but it's one of those things, when one person starts calling you that, then they all do. And it's just kind of what you go by after that. It's kind of a funny story.
That kind of sticks. That's a great one. I'm glad you shared that one.
Exactly.
I was trying to figure that one out. I was like, all right, nope.
Hey, there's a lot of worse things to be called. So.
I was gonna say, yeah, that's a solid one. Cute kid at a host house. I mean, that's that'll get that. That's a good one. Well, you win this national championship at Rich Harvest Farms, and obviously this opens a lot of doors, exemptions and conversations for awards that you end up either being a finalist for, or you end up winning, and then we got Walker Cup. We'll get to that in a bit. But one thing I noticed during watching the highlights of that final round is the speed at which you play, which, shall we say, is a little bit faster than most, because, I've been around a lot of college players in the last 12 months, and I'm seeing rehearsal swings. Then we got to check the yardage book. Let's check the green book just in case, and then wipe off the grips. And what about the wind? And oh, wait a minute, let's start over again. And then, God forbid, there's a coach nearby. Well, now we have to have a full-on dissertation of a 108-yard wedge shot, because those can be just really daunting. All of these college players are trying to, in some way, match their careers to what you did at Ole Miss, and. Mm-hmm. They look at what Hogan finalist, Haskins, McCormick. I mean, you had this phenomenal collegiate career. Explain to those that perhaps don't play fast, that maybe get themselves stuck in their head. Explain the benefits that you've found from playing at a faster pace. What is, you walk up to the ball and where does it start, and then where do you pull the trigger? How does that benefit you?
So I guess I'll go back to the start of it. I didn't know I really played fast until people started talking about it, when it started to be on TV and videos and stuff like that. I knew I, didn't waste any time and went, but I didn't realize quite how fast it was.
Right.
But, once I saw it on TV, I was like, wow, that's like about as fast as I've ever seen someone hit it. And you don't realize it when it's your own routine. But honestly, though, the way I look at it is like, why does the opposing coach call a timeout to ice the kicker? It's to make you think about it more.
Right.
Like, in ideal world, the kicker's going to go up there. He's going to waste 3 seconds. He's going to go ahead and hit it. Like, that's kind of, I think when you get on tee box, there's positive thoughts. You see the fairway, and the longer you sit there, I mean, that's why when you have to sit on tee box for, 15 minutes, it makes the tee shot just harder and harder. The longer you sit there, you're thinking about all the bad things that can happen. And I think that's what so many people do. Like, instead of just, like you said, if it's 108, a little into the wind, like, grab a club, hit a 115 shot, and just, it comes down to more of hitting a good shot. Like, that 108 shot's just not that complicated, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
it's more of people just trying to make it harder than it really is.
And I also think it's thinking beyond the actual shot at hand. You're talking about where you want to leave the ball for your birdie putt. Why don't you worry about actually getting it on the green first? Because the difference between a 15-footer and a 20-footer may not be that great.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I think it's just, I probably take a little more time now.
Okay.
Only because I think I'm a little like better now than I was, my freshman year of college. So like, it definitely, like, there's a little more to look at, but I'm the exact same speed. Once I pull the club and go, I'm the exact same speed. But yeah, I think it's just, I don't know why some people take so long. I don't know if there's a little bit of probably anxiousness to hit it almost. And like, I know that some hard shots people take longer because they're almost scared to hit it a little bit.
Right.
But that's where almost like a tee shot, I kind of make a point of, when I have a really hard tee shot that I'm, everybody has those tee shots on certain courses where you're nervous, you're thinking about it, 2 or 3 holes out, like you're kind of in the back of your mind. But
right.
I always honestly try to make a point to hit those quicker, get it in the ground, pick a shot and go, and just don't think about it, because that just doesn't usually help you in any way. So yeah, the advice to other college players would be pretty much just that. Like, what to do. Like on the range, if somebody said hit a 160-yard shot that has a little draw, you would just stand over and hit it. Like, you wouldn't think about it for 3 minutes before you do it.
Well, I think your scoring average in your sophomore season was about 69.57, so I think people listening can kind of take that to heart. He kind of knows what he's talking about. Now, one of the most famous golf shots you've ever hit at Ole Miss, and you know exactly where I'm going with this, it was not on a golf course. It wasn't at Rich Harvest Farms. Wasn't at your practice facility. It was at Hemingway Stadium. So this is probably the most to date. I would say this might be the shot that people see on TV or on Golf Channel reruns or clips or whatever. It's at a football game. It's at your home. It's at a home game. It's at an Ole Miss home game. In recognition of your win at the NCAA's, they have you come out on the field. And instead of waving to the crowd or holding up the trophy, you bring out a golf club and a football and proceed to hit it from, I think, about the 5 or 7 yard line through the uprights. So my initial question is, whose bright idea was this? Because I know that they love you there at Ole Miss, but it's 60,000 people, probably a little bit, a little bit liquored up, and they see a golfer come out there, and you're getting booed if you miss this, right?
Oh, 100%.
All right, so whose bright idea was this?
So it's interesting. So it was a sold out LSU game, so it was definitely rowdy, like you were saying. And so we had this kind of parody video. I don't know if you've seen it, but it was kind of like a spoof of like a 30 for 30, and it was called like a fall thing, and it was kind of me and Coach Malloy, and we were kind of saying, like, it was just kind of this funny thing that like the Ole Miss Productions just kind of did these things that they would play in the staff meetings. And we would kind of like, it was hitting a football and like a guy would run a route and you would catch it. And so it was kind of a combo of football and golf. And it was kind of saying that, I want to do that as my career. And it was just kind of had these funny interviews, and you can check it out. It's on YouTube somewhere.
Oh, I'll bring it up.
Yeah. So it was, but yeah, I don't remember exactly whose idea it was, but I remember they were like, do you think you can hit it through the field goal basically? And I was like, yeah. So we grabbed like a 9-iron and teed it up at like the 5 and made it easy. And we actually probably got back to like the 20 and was still able to do it.
Oh my God.
And they were like, and I didn't miss one. It actually wasn't very hard. Like it may look hard, but it's really not.
Well, I figured that too. I figured it's something that once you do, it's pretty easy, but then again, add in the 60,000 and that must have been a little bit different.
Yes. I don't remember whose exact idea it was, but I think I was saying like, oh, I could do this like at a game or something like that. And I was just kidding. But then like, I think Coach Malloy, again, I'm kind of like speculating on this. I don't remember exactly how it went down, but I think Coach Malloy like came in one day and he's like, hey, they want to, recognize you at the, at the LSU game for, I think that was for winning the NCAA's the previous year. And they were like, do you think you can, hit one through the field goal or whatever, like you were, at that little like video shoot we were doing. And I was like, probably. So we went out there on Friday, exact spot. And I made literally like 12 in a row. And I was like, yeah, honestly, like, I know it's going to be pressure, but like, I really don't think I can miss this. Like, it just kind of goes through like from that close,
Right.
And they're like, okay. So, I was a little nervous, and actually it's a fun little tidbit. We had qualifying that morning and I had a hole in one. So
God.
So that was a cool day. But so we got out there, and I think it was in the first quarter, so it was early, but I took a glove, and I've had some hate on Twitter and stuff for having the glove, but hitting the football, it spins the club and
Yeah,
stuff.
of course it does.
I was like, I'd rather have hate for the glove than miss this thing.
Exactly.
But yeah, so threw the glove on, kind of walked out there as they're announcing, and I don't honestly like think they thought I was actually going to hit it, like the student section and stuff. Like I thought it was like a little bit of a spoof or something.
Oh,
but,
okay.
Yeah, so I went out there, and you can kind of see in the video, like even the football team's kind of looking over their instrument and stuff, and then I hit it. It actually went through close to the middle, but it kind of like faded off. So it actually looks like it like was close to missing on the video, but that was probably the closest one to missing I hit out of like the 12 to 15 I hit. But yeah, it was a really, it was a cool thing. And like, it was probably the coolest thing I did like at Ole Miss, but it was definitely, like you said, very risky because it would have been just a really bad failure if you just kind of hit like a low little sputtery shank and missed it. And that would have been very anticlimactic for sure.
You have no desire to ever try that again, do you?
Yeah, I'll just go out on top.
There you go.
It was a cool memory, and I have people every once in a while like send me videos from it where they were in the student section and stuff, and I went crazy when it went in. But that was a cool memory for sure.
That's yeah. I had to ask you not the how did you do it, because again, like you said, it's a pretty big target there. But yeah, I had to know whose bright idea that was to say, yeah, let's just throw you out there in front of 60,000 liquored up people at a football game.
Yeah,
well,
it was crazy.
If the national championship is the highlight of your collegiate career, then I'm guessing right near the top of the amateur career is the Walker Cup, and by you being here at the back of the range, we've reached now half of the 17 team, and Spider Miller have now been guests on the podcast. So,
wow.
So it's you, and we got Morikawa, Zalatoris, Redmond, and Hagestad. So I'm missing Gim and Cameron Champ and Norman Jong and Scheffler and McNealy. Now, to quote Leonardo DiCaprio in Wolf of Wall Street, I'm not leaving. So I'm going to get them all eventually. But but I think this team is going to kind of be compared to that 2007 team, that featured famous golf podcaster Colt Knost and other golf enthusiasts like Dustin Johnson and Billy Horschel and Webb Simpson. But of the guys that I'm missing on your team, who do you think is going to be the best episode? Who should I really laser in on? Like, I mean, I'm going to get them all, but who out of the 5 that I'm missing do I need to kind of make sure I get as quickly as possible?
I would have. You said you didn't have Mav, right?
I haven't had McNealy, Scheffler, Zhang, Champ, and Gim.
I think McNealy would have to be the most interesting based on his career kind of trajectory. He was obviously the number 1 AM, and then he kind of said, I didn't really talk to him about it, but like he kind of said he wasn't going to turn pro, but he was playing pro tournaments. Then he turns pro, has success on the Korn Ferry. It was I would have to think his would definitely be the most interesting to hear kind of his thought process on that stuff. He's an interesting dude for sure. He's awesome.
These Stanford guys, I've had a bunch of them on the podcast, and boy, I don't know if you've spent a lot of time with him or any other Stanford guys, but they are just a little bit different. They're just it's almost like they're too smart, and then they're also just too good at golf. It's not a fair mix.
Yeah, it's a good combo though.
Yeah, I mean, you'll get through life that way. It's just for me, I feel kind of not real smart when I'm talking to him. You go to that Walker Cup at LACC. I mean, you guys just boat raced GB and I, and the first match out, Norman and Colin beat Ellis and Plant 8 and 7, and I think Zalatoris.
They finished on 11.
Yeah, they finished on 11. I can't remember if it was Zalatoris or if it was Hagestad, but I have heard the story of like they're just walking in and people are actually still walking out playing their matches. They're looking over thinking that there's like an injury. They're like, what the hell's going on? They're like, no, we're done. And
exactly, yeah.
Now you didn't play in the morning. Did you follow any matches, or were you just kind of getting ready for your afternoon singles?
Yeah, I followed some matches, and like nobody really specific, but I was kind of roaming around, and then I kind of got there a hair later, roamed around, and then kind of went straight into my warm up because I believe I was first off in the afternoon, so it wasn't super late. But yeah, that week was definitely extremely memorable being out there, and it's a future U.S. Open venue, and and obviously with that team at the time it was a great team, or at the time it was a good team. Now it's a ridiculous team. So
yeah,
looking back, you can definitely see like how good everybody actually was on that team.
And you were the first match out, and it was kind of funny. Spider put you out first in the afternoon, and you're playing against Harry Ellis, who you defeat. And clearly he hasn't really broken a sweat yet, and not in a good way, unfortunately. But, he went to FSU. You were obviously Ole Miss. You must have bumped into him at some point in your collegiate career. What was the conversation like when you're playing him in singles and he just got worked 8 and 7 in the morning? Did that even get brought up or anything like that? Or was it just all systems go and kind of down to business?
No, it's kind of an interesting environment. I honestly think that the Walker Cup is kind of a little more almost like dynamic than the Ryder Cup, only because I knew him and I knew Paul McBride, and that was really it on that team. So it was kind of it was truly I think what the Ryder Cup used to be, like a United States team versus a Great Britain and Ireland team that we didn't cross over hardly in it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And the Ryder Cup it's basically guys that play every weekend.
Yeah, they all live in Jupiter.
Yeah, exactly. So I do think that the Walker Cup has a cool dynamic with, obviously I knew Harry, but for the most part, I was meeting people I never met before, and playing against them, it has a little more of a, like, hatred's not the right word, but like a rivalness to it when you feel like you're actually playing against, the other countries, compared to just them living here. So, but Harry's a nice guy, and no, it was not mentioned how bad he lost in the morning, but we were playing, and it was a good match, and I was up a couple, and I think I was one up going into 18, and I hit this 6-iron in there to like 2 inches and was able to walk it off like that. So that was pretty sweet to, kind of not give him a chance on the last.
That's a good way to win it. One of your teammates, again, there, we just mentioned him, Mr. Hagestad. He listens to this podcast. He actually knows that we're recording this today. And I believe you guys had a little bit of a game recently at LACC.
Yeah, we did. We played on, let's see, what's today? Tuesday. We played on Friday, I believe, out there. It was my first time being back, and my girlfriend she was in a film, like a featured film out there, and they debuted it in Dallas, and they premiered it out in LA. So we went out there and saw it, and I texted him to see if he was, if he was busy or whatever, and he said we can go out there and play. So it was kind of cool to see the golf course again, not in Walker Cup conditions, and playing a little bit shorter tee, so it was a little more enjoyable for sure.
So you call up, I love it, calling up Hagestad saying, my actress girlfriend's in town, let's get a quick game. That's a pretty good flex on Hagestad. Anytime you could pull one off on him, that's great. That's very well
exactly played. Oh yeah. Yeah, both of us, neither one of us had been, fully practiced up, being kind of the middle of I don't know if he would call it an off season for himself with his situation, but the kind of off season for me, neither of us have been playing too much and stuff. So it was kind of we weren't playing great, but it was fun.
Hey, that's just walking down memory lane, and there's nothing wrong with that. Now, Zalatoris shared a story about Doc Redman, and on his episode for talking about the Walker Cup, and I mean, and I've heard, so I'm going to actually play. I don't know if you've heard this story, but I'm going to actually let you listen to this really quick. So I'm going to play this.
I'll be interested to see what this is.
Okay, I'm going to play this for you. So
we went up to Valley Club. I mentioned we went up to Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
And it's just one of the most incredible. It's 6,400 yards. It's a McKenzie design. It's awesome. Absolutely fantastic. And we get out there and we're warming up on the range, and there's 150 people on the range. Like, mind you, this is like Tuesday. And we're just, out playing a little 2-on-2 games, just enjoying each other's company.
Yeah.
We get on the first tee, and there's literally, they told us they said there's around 200 members. And I was like, did every single one of them show up today just to watch us play golf? And so, we hit our first tee shots, and we're thinking, oh man, they'll be here for, maybe a couple holes, but they stayed the whole time. They watched us the entire time. And so we get done, and they've got an open bar and have some wonderful food for us. And we have this meet and greet with the members, and, being a short golf course and the guys with, great playing ability, we shot some pretty crazy low numbers. And so I want to say there were like 363s, a couple 64s.
Oh God.
And so the best part about this though was, Doc, I love you, but this is one of the best stories I've got about you. But Doug is standing to my left. I'm in the middle, and then Doc's on my right. And so Doug goes, hi, hands the microphone over. Hi, I'm Doug Gim. I'm from Arlington Heights, Illinois. I go to Texas, and I shot 63 today. And he gets over to me, And hi, I'm Will Zalatoris from Plano, Texas. Go to Wake Forest. I shot 63 today. And then he gets over to Doc, and Doc didn't play well that day. I think he shot a couple over, and everyone's in the low mid 60s, but Doc is awesome. And so Doc, after having a couple beverages, kind of fumbles his words, and I'm Doc Redman. I'm from Clemson, and I shot 84 today. And everyone just starts cracking up laughing. And Spider's over there with his hand in his head and just going, "That's our U.S. amateur champ, ladies and gentlemen."
Yeah, there you go.
And it was, we laughed about that on the hour and a half ride home from Santa Barbara. We thought it was the funniest thing we've ever, oh my gosh.
So that was at the Valley Club. Does that ring a bell?
It does, yeah.
All right. So,
I didn't remember. I knew Doc made a clown of himself. I didn't remember what he said.
so that is what Zalatoris shared that story. And I've also heard from reliable sources that there may have been some involuntary swimming activities that night, and perhaps some slow moving walker covers the next morning. Do you have any stories that you can share and add to the list of the legend of the 2017 U.S. Walker Cup team?
The first one that to kind of piggyback off the one you said, the first one I remember is the whole team after we had won that night, where I think we were at like the Beverly Hills Hilton or something right across the street. And it was like obviously a sweet spot. And there was like a big pool in the back. It was no telling what time it was, probably 11 or 12. And we were all talking about throwing Spider in the pool, like just, picking him up and throwing him in there. But like half the team was kind of concerned that obviously Spider had a few, and he's, I don't know how old he is, 60s or something like that. So
right.
we're not 100% sure if we should just launch him in the pool right now, being in the dark and everybody's drinking a little bit, stuff like that. But ultimately it was decided it was a go, and I can't remember who it did. It might have been, I think, Cameron and somebody else. They just launched him in the pool, and luckily Cameron Champ, he jumped in there after to make sure everything was good. But yeah, it was funny it was kind of funny having the conversation though, where like some of us were like, yeah, it would be cool, but I don't know if it's worth it. We don't want to exactly kill our Walker Cup captain after the win.
That wouldn't be good. No.
But no, there's a couple of good Doc stories too. I won't really share them, but he had a good time that week for sure.
I feel like it all revolves around Redmond. I feel like that's like the bright spot that everyone burns himself against. Like they just stay away from that. So. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, it was an awesome week though. Because like you have tournaments, and like I'd played with all of them in groups. I'd played the same tournaments as them, like all that kind of stuff. Like even eight with them, stuff like that. But like that week, you fully for a whole week you're with all of them. So it's like really cool. At the time, like Colin Morikawa wasn't a huge deal, but now he is, and stuff like that. So it's cool to have those memories with people that at the time are just college kids that are really good players, and then to kind of see all those guys that you hung out with for literally a week straight, sun up to sundown, have the success they have, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I just look at the resumes of everyone on that team and what they did as an amateur. Champ wins the Trans-Miss that year, and obviously Redmond and Gim go 1-2 at the USAM, and you're winning the national championship, and son of Hannah, and just it's like oh my gosh, it's an absolute murderer's row. It's like no surprise that happened. Just incredible team, and this was really not the. This was just coming off of your sophomore year, so you had a little a couple more years at Ole Miss, and you, like I said, produced this really great career. But at some point, it's time to turn professional, and You've played PGA Tour events as an amateur. You came in fourth at basically your hometown event, St. Jude. To come in fourth place as an amateur, I'm compared to what now as a professional. I'm guessing that's a whole separate episode of lessons you've learned and stories and just experiences. What is maybe something that maybe you had in your head as an amateur before you turned pro that you've completely that's just been a misconception? What have you kind of learned now that you've been a professional for a couple of years based on what you thought you knew as an amateur?
I think I didn't realize how good everyone was at the pro level, because you kind of coming in that 2017. So kind of to go back a little bit, I was having obviously a really good year. I think I'd won 4 times in the regular season, and then and it was, one of those things. I was playing great. I was, a top 5 player in the country, something like that. But I had no thoughts of, this was my sophomore year, and I had no thoughts of like turning pro or anything of that nature. I was kind of just, enjoying playing really well, and I was practicing hard and playing good, so it was fun. But then like you said, I go to the national championship. I win there the next week. Win Sunny Hannah, the next week I finished 4th in Memphis, and then the week after that I win Sunny Hannah, and all of a sudden, I have to turn down, like $240,000 for the PGA event, and then after I win Sunny Hannah, I started to have some agents and some people in my ear with turning pro saying you could get 7 starts right now and stuff like that. So it completely flipped the switch, and I kind of sat down with Coach Malloy, and I was like, obviously this has kind of come up, so like what do you think? And he was like, honestly, he's like, it's totally your decision. But he's like, if you want my help, I will fully give it. So I was like, yeah, I want your help. Of course, you've seen this for, 15 years, and I've seen it for 3 days. But we kind of I honestly just came to the conclusion, really, my golf game looking back wasn't ready, but I thought it was because I had so much confidence, obviously. But it more came down to I wasn't just mentally ready. Like I said, I was in that headspace for 3 days. Like I can't just, boom, 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 turn pro, and then all of a sudden I'm in no man's land if, I get my 7 starts and say miss all the cuts. So it was more of I just didn't have my, life in order at all, be like ready to turn pro. You know what I mean? I had no contacts for, sponsor stuff. I had no agent. I didn't know who that would be. So like I needed way more time to actually like figure out what I wanted to do. So that was, basically pretty quickly, honestly, probably in those 3 or 4 days, me and Coach met kind of every day, and I probably was like, yeah, like I'm going to stay. Like and kind of what it came down to too was that I was like, if I'm good enough to turn pro right now, I'll be good enough after next year. I'll be good enough after senior year, if not better. So that was that kind of, and I was like, Coach Moore was like, if you play good, it doesn't matter. You'll be good. You can turn pro next year, whenever you want. If you play bad, you would rather still be in college. You don't want to turn pro, play bad, and be in no man's land your junior year of college, and you're just sitting there. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we were looking at it from a best case and worst case scenario, and it pretty much was a no-brainer to stay. So, and it was basically the same conversation after my junior year. It was kind of the same thing, and I was able to go to Q school as an amateur and get through there. So I ended up turning pro after 3.5 years in the middle of my senior year. So that was, and I still think that was a good move with having status on the Korn Ferry and stuff like that. That's really tough to turn down. So. But yeah, it's a tough process, and I have people all the time asking me what the process of turning pro is, and there really isn't one. You basically just say you're a pro. Like there's no. I was literally talking this about yesterday with Merida with a guy, and he was like, "You have to do paperwork or anything like that," and I was like, "No, like you literally like anyone can just say they're a pro golfer. Like maybe technically you're not until you sign a deal or get in a tournament and make a check or something. But yeah, it's not like getting picked up by a team in another sport or anything like that."
Yeah, no, it's really great you brought that up because I see it all the time, and they got these elite amateurs, and then the agents are around, and then the equipment guys are around, and there's just all these different messages, and it's you have to perform on the golf course, but there's all that other stuff that you're not used to dealing with. I mean, travel and picking, it's kind of complicated to pick a schedule too. I mean, sure, if you have Korn Ferry Tour status or you have PGA Tour status, sure, you just look on the calendar and say, okay, I'm going to play these, or I got to wait for a shuffle to see if I can get in these. But if you're not at that upper level, you got to actually be strategic about how to actually go about doing this.
Yeah, exactly. And I had, when that happened and we were talking, like I had no, Coach Malloy and our whole team of people, they were booking everything for travel. They just said, here's your room at the hotel. We're flying this time. We're picking you up here. Like, I mean, it was everything. It was so much more to it than just turning pro. And I think too, a lot of people, it goes both ways. Obviously there's guys like, Matthew Wolf and stuff like that turn pro early just because, they're killing college and they're going to play well on the PGA Tour and stuff like that. So those situations make sense. But I think sometimes people can turn early because of a little bit of like, I don't want to say like insecurity in their game, but they feel like they have to hop on the opportunity right now because it might not be there down the road kind of thing.
Yep.
Which is, kind of, the situation I was in. Yes, I probably could have gotten 7 starts then, but like you have to play great to make anything of those. You can make some money and stuff, but even if you go finish, 15th, 50th, 30th, I mean, you'll make good money, but you'll be in no man's land after those 7,
Yeah, but the other thing too is this money you're talking about, 200, 300, 400,000. Yes, that's a lot of money, but I mean, not to downplay that, but I mean, gosh, $400,000 in the grand scheme of things as a 20,
Exactly.
it's not going to change your life. It may make things easier, but it's not going to, you can't retire on $400,000.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
It's a crazy process, and I think mine. And I also had, I was talking to Maverick actually in that time before the Walker Cup actually, and him and Ollie Schneiderjens, because I know they both kind of stayed, and they were kind of good mentors to me. And I was asking questions, and I mean, they had all kinds of perspective that, like I said, I had none, like literally like no perspective at all. I was just playing college, and all of a sudden this happened. So, and obviously I played well the next year and was able to keep it going and stuff like that. But it just came down to I just wasn't ready in my head, really.
you're also talking about, okay, you win the national championship and you're a Walker Cupper, and then all of a sudden now you're the flavor of the week and everyone's coming after you. And my first thought would be like, hey, I was pretty good before I won that thing,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'd won 4 times that year. It was just definitely the spotlightness. I've been playing great, and I don't know where I was like on the Haskins list before that. I think I was maybe like 3rd or something like that. I know Sam Burns was up there and some of that stuff, but yeah, it was definitely a crazy. I kind of had a rough start to my college career, and it kind of just kept getting better and better. I won the last 2 events of my freshman year. Obviously, I had the really good sophomore year, and I won another 4 times my junior year. And so I really felt like I was getting better and better and better. So I didn't really see a need to like rush and get out of there, if that makes sense.
No, that's very, very smart. Another thing about getting your professional career started, there's so much other than just playing the golf, but it's actually finding the right place to get set up and to play and practice and live. And you're at Merido, and that's where we've bumped into each other several times. And obviously Davis Riley's out there, and Zalatoris is out there. And, it's not, there's just an article in golf.com, I believe, about, Jupiter's the big hot spot, and everyone's, there with their boats, and that's one spot. Then obviously Orlando's a spot at Isleworth, and there's all these different spots that a lot of the pros stay at. And I've played Merido. I've been out there a ton, and that is a hard-ass golf course. So I'm sure the membership's great. Albert Huddleston, fantastic owner. It is such a homey, welcoming place. But at the end of the day, you need to be someplace that is going to help your game and help you succeed professionally. How did Merido? Because there's other places in Dallas. There's Trinity, and there's a lot of places you can choose from. How did you pick Merido as like, this is the place where I'm going to get better?
I lived in Oxford for a year after I turned pro, and I was kind of splitting time between practicing down there and then playing at Southwind up in Memphis when I was staying at my parents' house, and kind of splitting time between those two. And I knew I needed to move somewhere because I was getting a little stagnant practicing, because it was basically just by myself every day, and which is fine for a week, 2 weeks, but you start practicing for 2 months straight every day by yourself, you lose a little drive to like go out there, because it's just not as fun,
Right.
And so I was like, all right, I'm going to move somewhere. And my final 2 spots were Jacksonville and Dallas. And I kind of had it, basically what it came down to is I knew people in Jacksonville. It's a cool city, that stuff. But I was good friends. I played basically every practice round with Will and Davis Riley, and on the Korn Ferry that year. So I was like, and they're members at Merido. I've talked to those people. Like, I would be able to join. The airport is unbelievable. It's probably the best airport.
Oh, Love Field is awesome. Oh my God.
Yeah. So I fly American, so I usually travel out of DFW. Okay. But both are just having those hubs right there, and you're in the middle of the country. And so the only difference, was obviously Merido I had to join. It would be like, I'd have to pay for it, stuff like that. And in Jacksonville, Sawgrass would be free. So that was kind of the only thing not pro Dallas, basically. But in the day, I was like, kind of like you said with the money earlier, I was like, it's an investing. I'm investing in myself, basically. And I think that's where my golf game will, see the most growth, playing with those guys. And Taylor Moore also plays out there, Martin Flores, Kevin Doherty. We have probably 7 or 8 guys that are on the Korn Ferry or PGA Tour. And so I knew, I'd be with those guys every day. It's a hard golf course, good practice facility. So it was kind of a no-brainer, honestly. It didn't really come down to like a tough decision between those two. It was pretty quick that I knew this is where I wanted to be.
And I'm guessing when you're out there playing with the guys and, you have a good day, you shoot 68, 69, that's a hell of a score on that golf course. And you go out maybe on the Korn Ferry Tour. Do you feel that the transition to going out there where guys are shooting 64s and 63s, where they're really going low, is that tough for you, or do you have to kind of change gears? How does that work?
Not necessarily. I mean, Merida is kind of one of those in the summer. So usually like the back tees, it stretches back to about, 7,900 or almost 8,000. But where the tees would be normally would be, say, 7,300, something like that. So it is somewhat reasonable. And obviously it's still really difficult. But in the summer, if there's low wind, a good day will be, 5, 6, 7 under. So it is scoreable at times. Okay. But then, I played yesterday and I shot like 82 because it was blowing 25 and 45 degrees, and it was just absolutely brutal. Like, you just couldn't make a birdie. So, there's definitely I like that though. I like how different it can play depending on the weather, and so it never gets boring. You're always hitting different shots, and for example, like into the first hole, I've hit everything from 5-wood to lob wedge, and it's completely a different look depending on where the pins are and all that. So I think it's makes you very well rounded. And as far as the scoring going to the Korn Ferry, like, good golf is good golf. And like at the end of the day, like, if I hit on the Korn Ferry, I'm going to have I have 120 yards. I hit that to 10 feet, whether that putt's for par at Merida or birdie there, it's the same thing. So, unless you have some kind of mental issues with that, it really comes down to the easier the golf course, you should score better. So
right.
I wouldn't say no like tough things with there, but it definitely does help on, play tough courses, because there's certain you've played Merida, there's certain tee shots that are really intimidating, and it definitely, when you get to the the tournaments and stuff, it makes certain holes look less intimidating than they were maybe the year before.
That's kind of what I was thinking, that if you can get through that place and get used to the discomfort of Merida, then there really can't be many other golf courses that are going to intimidate you at all.
Yeah, exactly. And I even kind of a specific shot I've struggled with in the past is, kind of a dog leg right to left, and there's water left. I kind of always struggle with that, but Merida number 10 and 18 are those exact type holes. Oh. And I figured out, basically I've played them, hundreds of times. Like, I literally play there every day. Like, I'm not a huge practicer. I just love playing.
Right.
And after, playing those holes a bunch of times, I was like, man, like, if I just kind of like aim at the water and bleed it, like, I hit this perfect, like, every time. So, and I took that to the Korn Ferry this year, and like, there was a couple holes that, I was nervous on a little bit, like we were talking about, and, I would just aim up the left and rip a little cut, and it was perfect. And I was like, damn, like, that was really like a direct benefit of playing at that golf course. Like, and it kind of actually showed in the tournament. So that was cool.
That's a great story. That shows the direct correlation between where you pick to practice and what you're trying to do professionally. I will get you out of here on this one. You mentioned Merida. There's a lot of characters out there. And I think one time, people listening right now, well, everyone wants to know, okay, what are the games like out there? What are these pros? They put their hand in their own pocket. They're playing for money. And I'm going to let people just use your imagination. Hey, these guys play, earth-shattering information. These guys play for a couple bucks here and there. So we'll leave it at that. But talk to me about this dice game if you can. If you want to leave this out, but you can. But I've seen you guys, you and Zalatoris and Riley. I walked into the men's grill, and you guys are sitting at a table, and it's like you're playing Magic the Gathering with 37 sided dice. And I'm like, what are these idiots doing? I look over, I'm like I expect you guys to be playing cards or doing something. You're just throwing dice, and from my understanding, it's not so much a money thing. It's more bragging rights and who can get embarrassed. I mean, didn't someone have to run out to the water and run back or do something stupid?
Yeah, we're not sophisticated enough for cards. So,
okay.
So I do think in general, golfers probably have a mild gambling problem, only because it's basically your job. You're spending money to get to a tournament, and then you're playing for money. And so I think it kind of comes with the job. That's what you're doing, basically.
Right.
But so we haven't played that in a while. But yeah, so that the story you're referring to, we were playing maybe like $10 a hand or something for the whole game. So it wasn't a big thing. But so one day we were playing for like an hour or whatever. It was kind of like rainy and cold. And we basically got done after we played. We were like, all right, if I literally did it first, I was like, all right, if I just roll a 3 and a 4, I'll run out and touch the pin on number 10, which is literally like 600 yards from the clubhouse, and it's like 30 degrees and like drizzling. Roll the 3 and the 4. I'm like, oh my God, you're kidding me. Like, I don't even know why I did it. There was no benefit for me to do that. But just the adrenaline of the dice. But then Davis does the exact same thing. He's like, okay, if I roll a 1 and a 5, I'll do it. 1 and a 5. Boom.
Oh.
So we both have to go all the way out there. So it made us look really stupid, but at least it's a good memory to look back on. So,
and obviously, fittingly, Zalatoris gets the last laugh in this episode here.
yeah, exactly.
Damn, how did that happen? I can't believe it.
I know.
Well, sir, it was worth the wait. I really do appreciate all these great stories about your collegiate career, and obviously great start to your professional career. You know, moving up the ranks at Korn Ferry. Obviously, next year you're not going to have to deal with that crazy, massive super season. We could actually, play just a regular season of professional golf. Go enjoy a lotion. Tell Mr. Riley I say hello, and I appreciate you stopping by the back of the range.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Glad we were finally getting on the calendar.
Yes, sir. And there you have it. Special thanks to Braden Thornberry for joining me on this episode here at the Back of the Range. Don't forget, follow along on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Every single episode is available at thebackoftherange.com. We'll see you next time here at the Back of the Range.